Does everybody want to do the coordination clap?
I would love to.
Sure.
Okay.
Do you have to call it that now after the clap clip the other day?
Yeah, I have to call it that after the winds of Ganoria. All right. 3, 2, 1. Okie doke.
Clap clip.
Yes, that was the clap clip. Avocado! This is episode 204 of Insert Credit, the relentless smorgasbord of video game topics our panel must address in no more than 6 minutes or face the penalty of a horrible buzzer. I'm Alex Jaffe, back in New York City, and right now my phone is at 51% battery life.
Okay, I'm Brandon Sheffield, still in Oakland, and my phone battery is at 73% right now. Also, if people didn't understand that avocado, there was this very good little joke that was going around, which was somebody saying, what's the main ingredient of guacamole? And it has Bayonetta dancing around a bunch before doing her avavago spell, which when you have the context sounds really like she's screaming avocado. And
that was the joke.
That was the joke. But, people might not have known. I had to let them know.
It's almost like I start every one of these episodes with a joke that only 3 people in the audience are intended to get.
I suppose it is kind of like that. But that one was so current and Twitter related, I felt like, people would want to go and see.
We're like, ooh, I know this one. And you were excited to share that you knew it.
Right.
I mean, I didn't get the joke because I literally almost yanked my headphones out of my ears because it was so loud.
My favorite part of that joke is that the Spanish word for lawyer is like abogado.
Abogado, yeah.
Abogado, yeah.
So there's another version of that tweet that talks about a Spanish lawyer.
Yeah.
That's very good.
You get hit by a car, who do you call? Yeah.
We've heard a couple voices. They should introduce themselves, say where they're broadcasting from and what their phone battery life is right now.
Yeah, I'm Mathew Kumar. I'm broadcasting from Toronto, and I just upgraded my phone for the first time in 5 years.
Well,
mazel tov.
My phone battery is in fact at 72% rather than hovering around 11% all day.
Oh, Brandon, what was yours again?
73.
Oh, wow. That's the one to beat. We got one more guest on the show this week, an old favorite.
Hi, it's Ash. I am broadcasting from Ohio, and my phone battery is at 83%. So
dang! Boy. Yeah, we got a winner over here. Ash taking an early lead this episode of Insert Credit. But speaking of tallying points, it was in fact our own Brandon Sheffield who won last week's episode, which means he gets to introduce our first topic this week. Brandon, did you bring anything for the class?
I just remember that right now when you started talking about points. So the answer is, wait, no, I just suddenly thought of something. I got it. Okay.
All right.
Can you think of any games that have either been helped or hindered by having what really feels like a tertiary system in it? This came to me because I was playing the Sega CD version of Dungeon Explorer. And in this game, so Dungeon Explorer is like a gauntlet style game where you got hordes of enemies and you're shooting projectiles at them, and they have spawn hubs that you have to hit. But it's also got Explorer right in the name. So you're supposed to explore around, find loot, get upgrades, get keys to doors, and whatever kind of stuff. But what they chose to do is also put in a food meter, which I believe they had in Gauntlet, but they didn't have in any other version of Dungeon Explorer. And so when you're looking around this place trying to find all the little extra things, you have a food meter that is constantly ticking down and which you cannot bring back up in any way. So eventually, if you take too long, so you look around, find all the stuff, and then you get to the boss, but you run out of food, you just die. And it's like a fun game that is completely ruined by having this one extra thing, which is like, this was probably too friendly to these players. We should add an arbitrary time limit that just makes them stop playing and stop having fun. And anybody got any experiences with those kinds of games?
I think the most popular example of this in recent cultural memory is item and weapon durability in Zelda Breath of the Wild. That's just an element of the game a lot of people got turned off by.
Yeah, some people love that.
Yeah, some people love it.
I do not love it.
No. But there's something you can do about that. It can be argued that adds to the game through inventory management, whereas this kind of constantly down-ticking food meter. They can't do anything to raise. It's just a bad mechanic.
I think it's one of those things that really speaks to the complexity of, as you say, inventory management and all this type of stuff. Like the classic thing of, let's say you're playing Silent Hill, right? And you're like, well, I got all these health kits. I'm almost dead, but I can't use them because I only have 99, right? Or the same with RPGs and everything else. Like it's something I've been thinking about a lot, because when you, for example, you make a horror game, like scarcity is actually really scary. But as a player, because you can do things multiple times, you will think to yourself, "Oh, I'll try and beat it without using it." And I can't remember what the game is that I was playing recently, but it really frustrated me that the things would get used up. And I was like, simply because they will get used up, I can't keep them after this point. I just won't use them, just making the experience less pleasant. And I think it's really, really difficult to balance that. It's like, how do you keep the player, particularly in horror games or any game that's supposed to be somewhat scary, on the edge of feeling like they're about to fail, and so they have to use their stuff, but not like in a situation where they're just safe enough that they don't.
Save ribbons in the early Resident Evils are exactly that, where it's like, you're gonna make me manage how many times I save across this, and I have to decide whether I'm gonna save and whether I might have to backtrack for 2 hours. Like that's a game killer for me right there. Like I understand the tension they're trying to build, but the tension that it builds for me, it builds all the way to me not playing the game anymore, because I don't have that kind of time to where I can replay something, or like that's not a risk reward for me.
Yeah, there's that push and pull, right, in games like Dark Souls, right, where it's like the idea is like, oh, you've built up a lot of experience, so you should go back or really push further to get more experience. But again, for certain types of game players, like myself included, your feeling is like, well, I have like a tiny amount, so I'll just go back and save. Like, and then they do all this stuff to try and stop you doing it, and it just becomes this extra like pressure of constantly managing at what point you think you will have wasted your time if you go any further. As Jaffe said, some people love this stuff. And it really works for them.
So I have two for this. One is the sanity mechanic in the old Amnesia games. I'm not particularly fond of them, because I think it's kind of weird, like the whole sanity thing and whatever. And the other part, like, have to manage it. Like you stand in the light, or you can't be in the dark for too long, or you'll go crazy, as it were. And aside from the fact that it's kind of like a gross like stigmatization of like mental illness or whatever, the fact that when you know that you're losing your sanity is you hear this like grindy, gross, like someone is chewing with their mouth open kind of noise, and it's like right in your ear, and it bugs me. I don't have misophonia, or where you like get weird out by those kinds of sounds, but it's just enough to where like I can't do this. And so my other one is not a ruined but an enhanced game, and I don't necessarily know if it qualifies as like a tertiary system, but real estate management in Fable is a totally unnecessary function in that game that absolutely 100% improves the game.
Oh yeah, landlord sim.
Yeah, I guess that's kind of different because it's more like a mini game almost, whereas like a tertiary system, as I'm thinking about it, would be something that affects the entirety of the game.
Something you have to think about throughout the whole thing.
Something they layered in.
Yeah, then absolutely the sanity system in those games.
I would say though, in Fable 3, which is terrible, the real estate system is something you think about all the time, because once you get about halfway through that game, the entire game becomes about raising enough money to not fail at the end of the game, and so you end up having to own every building in the entire country, which makes no sense whatsoever, because that's not how kings work.
I was going to say something about the Skyrim survival mods, but we're out of time, so we need to move on. That's my phone. Okay, question number 2.
Did that get your phone battery down at all?
It's charging, so it's up to 62%.
Oh, all right.
All right.
That sounds like cheating, Jaffe, because surely the goal is to count the numbers again at the end of the show and see who wins then.
I didn't think of that. We'll have to do that another time.
You need to insert credit where we evaluate if these hosts' phones are pieces of shit.
It's been 1 week since the Nintendo Direct. Now that we've had some time to calm down, was everyone overreacting to the Mario movie casting news?
No.
That is a completely valid response.
Well, yes and no, because who really gives a shit about a Mario movie? It's going to be for babies, right?
It's the Minions people.
Yeah, it's the Minions people, right? But on the other hand, like, I think it's fair to be like, what deranged planet are you on where these are the people you pick? Like it's fine to just be like, what the hell is going on? Like, but at the same time, yeah, who cares? It's for babies.
Is it for babies though, or is it one of those things that's marketed towards children, but adults will absolutely watch it? Like,
it's for adult games.
Yeah. No, but see, the thing with the Mario thing is that a lot of those choices were really inspired because you've got Jack Black as Bowser. Hello?
Yeah, that's great.
I'm watching that movie for him alone. But like Chris Pratt, like the worst Chris for a multitude of reasons, just defies explanation. When Charles Martinet is right there. And then the other thing that made me feel like so terrible is that we already have this discussion about, voice acting and acting are completely two different like functions.
Yes.
They do not like cross over. But for some reason now we've gotten into this like thing where we think they can cross over while we're putting like voice actors out of jobs. Charles Martinet is right there.
So my solution there is Nolan North does all the voices. He does Mario, he does Peach, he does Bowser. I mean, that's the correct decision.
I will say, have you heard Charles Martinet speak an entire sentence, let alone an entire paragraph in the Mario voice? It's not pleasant. The guy is a sound effect artist, not a voice artist, which is a different skill set. Like, you can find videos of him doing like Nintendo DS technical videos in the Mario voice, and it just sucks a lot to hear.
Yeah, it used to be at E3, right? When you were standing in queues to get into the Nintendo booth, they'd have these big screens, and sometimes Charles Martinet would be on them, like talking to the people in the queue, and he would talk to you at length in Mario's voice. And at a certain point, it was kind of a bit like, imagine if when you were standing in line to get into Sony's booth, they just had someone raking their hands up and down a blackboard the whole time.
So if you got Charles Martinet to just do the Mario voice for 90 minutes, I feel like that would be a bad time, but not Chris.
Okay, so who's a better Mario that's not Charles Martinet or Chris Pratt?
Who's a better Mario? You know who I would get? I would get Dana Carvey.
Okay.
So somebody's watching The Only Murders in the Building. Oh no, that's Martin Short. Never mind.
Martin Short.
Yeah.
Well, who are our most famous Italian actors? Or is she clearly one of them?
Yeah.
Giancarlo Esposito. I am not kidding.
It's a me, Mario.
It should just be Bob Hoskins.
Bob Hoskins is dead, isn't he?
Yeah, he's dead.
It's not my fault. Get John Leguizamo to do it.
Yeah, that would be good.
Yeah, Johnny Legs. The graduation from Luigi to Mario.
Yeah, the little brother has finally become the big brother. That could be the tagline.
Yeah, people would like that.
I would.
Here's
I'd like it.
my theory on how they're going to use Charles Martinet in this movie. Because they teased, he's going to be in it, so he'll get royalty checks for something. We didn't forget about this guy. Here's my theory. I think when Chris Pratt gets a super mushroom, he's going to start doing the Mario voice.
Oh, God.
Well, yeah, what kind of voice is Chris Pratt going to do for Mario? Because imagine Mario, that weird squat parody of an Italian plumber, speaking with Chris Pratt's voice. It just doesn't make sense to me. So is he going to do like a Mario voice the whole time?
I think it'll be some kind of middle ground that'll end up sounding like his Lego movie character.
And it's possible that I dreamed this, but I thought Charles Martinet was playing himself in the movie. Can I imagine that?
No, you imagine that. They said he's going to have a special cameo.
Because I assumed it was going to be one of those movies where like Mario comes into the real world and he has to partner up with the guy from Sonic to, I don't know, get his wife back or something. I don't know.
He's going to have a Stanley like cameo where this old white guy is going to show up and like give directions to Mario, and then like nobody except the weird gamer nerds are going to know like, oh my God, that's Mario. And then he'll be just gone.
He's going to like wipe his eyes and go, Mamma mia, now I've seen everything.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Just like they do in Italy.
Just like in Italy. Just like they drew it up.
I've been to Rome, and people didn't sound nearly as much like Mario as I hoped they would.
But do they sound like the Sopranos?
They don't sound like the Sopranos either. What I'm starting to realize is that maybe Italy is not a real
It goes in the same list as Finland.
Oh, wait. No, Australia. Australia isn't the real country.
You could make an argument that Italy is just a loosely connected collection of city-states that kind of reorganized into what resembles a country.
Well, that is pretty much true. I mean, I don't know if y'all saw that thing. It was super cool about like part of the reason why, in The Sopranos, they say mozzarella instead of mozzarella and whatever, is a lot of the immigration from Italy to the US happened World War I and then World War II. And that was before Italy had a standardized Italian. And so everybody was kind of speaking different languages, like they were speaking Corsican language instead of standardized Italian. And so these words are actually like holdovers from great grandmas and great grandpas who spoke those dialects and then brought them here. And Like more people speak those dialects in the US or understand them than in Italy. It's wild.
My assumption was that when they got off the boat at Ellis Island, and the customs agent was there, he was like, "What's this?" And it's cheese, mozzarella. And he's like, "It's called mozzarella now, so just keep moving."
Yeah.
In conclusion, Polly Walnuts should be playing Mario.
Oh, Polly Shore.
Sounds good.
In a side-scrolling game, how large should the player character be?
Big as possible.
Absolutely.
That's the opposite of how I feel about it.
That's my PC Engine influence there, because they were always trying to be like, we can make a character that's this big. Look at that. No, it shouldn't be that big. I think they should be roughly, I think between 20 and 25% of the screen. I know that's much bigger than most people would say, but
That's quite large.
Well, are we talking platformer or beat 'em up?
Let's go through it.
Because I think for a beat 'em up, they can be much bigger.
Yes.
Yeah.
And I was thinking beat 'em up, not platformer. I think for like a beat 'em up and even a run and gun, they can be bigger. But for platformers, they got to be a little smaller.
What's an example of some run and gun beat 'em up games where characters are that size?
The Final Fight series has pretty big characters. It's almost like not quite fighting game size, but almost there, because you don't need a huge amount of vertical space, and the game is constantly constraining you with arbitrary walls and invisible barriers where it's like you can't go any further. You got to beat up all these guys first. You can have them be like a third of the screen or more, and it still works, because all you really want to do is be able to see who's right next to you and beat them up and see all those inputs.
Right.
Yeah, it's weird on that because really I feel like the beat 'em up that always stands in my mind is Final Fight, right? And so when I go back and play like other beat 'em ups with smaller characters like your Kunio-kuns or your NES Double Dragons, I'm always like, these characters are so small. It's not acceptable to me.
Yeah.
Sounds like you're describing God Hand, actually.
It's a great game.
Are they small?
No, I mean, God Hand is the size of the screen.
Oh, yeah.
It's a third-person beat 'em up, and part of the reason it may be so satisfying to real diehards of that format is because of that size real estate he takes up.
Although I do think when you get into 3D, it gets tough because I assumed we were talking 2D before. But when you get into 3D,
We were.
It's difficult because you wind up with characters off screen doing stuff at you, which there are ways to solve that, but most games don't.
I think they should just be as large as possible. I always got a kick out of the Giga Mushroom in was it New Super Mario's Wii U, where he just gets huge and just like crushes the entire stage. I enjoyed that.
Just forget
They
it.
took that from Bonk 3. Thanks very much.
You would want that the whole time though.
Yeah, let's throw level design out the window and just crush everything.
Yeah, heck level design. Right, Mathew?
As a level designer, I must stand up for my profession. They are extremely important, and the way I've designed the level is the way you are going to do it. Stop trying to do it other ways.
Which is why you like your side-scrolling characters to be really small, because it's the level that's the most important part.
Yeah.
Well, actually, the reason I like characters to be quite small, Brandon said, like, as a give or take, like a 20% in general is a good starting position, either smaller or larger, purely in terms of screen height on a 16:9 screen, right? The thing that I have learned in my career is that the number one most annoying fucking thing in the entire world is video game cameras. Now, 3D obviously famously a problem, but people don't understand how challenging actually even a good camera in 2D is, because you want enough look ahead for the player to understand what they're looking at, and especially if they're moving in more than one direction. Let's say you're making a Metroidvania or something like that, where they'll be turning around and traversing areas in different directions. It becomes an absolute nightmare the larger a character is, because you're able to show less look ahead, and then you're forced into situations where you have to like have very intelligent cameras that switch positions quickly, which can lead to motion sickness and everything else. So really the ideal probably game character for me is he's probably about 2 or 3 pixels tall, and we just go from there.
Yeah, I remember with Indivisible, we also had the problem with the camera. There was load-in issues. Like if you were standing in like a transition zone and you went ahead a little bit, or if you went too fast, then the part ahead of you wouldn't be loaded in, and then if you flipped around, the part behind you might not be loaded in.
Yeah, people who play games don't understand just how much of the game just straight up is not running when they're not like when it's just not on screen, like culling and everything else. I remember that video a long time ago, right, where somebody was like, "Can you believe in The Witcher 3 they don't like show this part of the level when you're not there?" It's like, yeah, because that's culling, right? But even in 2D, culling and loading in different scenes, the way Unity works, you're often like having multiple scenes running at the same time, and then to go to another scene, you don't want it all in the same thing because you want more people working on it, which is a nightmare. You could be very constrained by that type of stuff. So That's the exact same issue with the camera, right? You can't be showing people like way ahead of them because you just don't have the ability to load it in time. Man. So you have to be so careful. That's why so many games, like even something like, let's say like Hollow Knight or something like that, like you're not transitioning, you transition from screen to screen with blackening out. You'd think, why do you need to do that? Because it's a nightmare otherwise.
Yeah, and with run and gun type games, you want the character to be toward the back part of the screen because you need to be able to avoid projectiles and shoot projectiles. So
right,
we'll learn about that later.
Okay. We got a trailer for the new Bayonetta game. Hideki Kamiya is back. Bayonetta's in pigtails. Where does the series have to go from here?
Ash.
Anywhere it wants to.
Yeah.
This is Bayonetta. Like, she can go to the moon. She has gone to the moon. Like, this is the woman who punched God in the face like a couple times in the first game.
She did. She literally punched God into the sun.
So, like, I don't know. We started pretty damn high.
Right. How do we like the problem with Bayonetta 2 is that they did everything you could do in Bayonetta 1.
Like, wasn't Bayonetta 1 where you had that, like, maybe just a touch too long sequence where you're doing that shooter thing too?
Oh, yeah.
Like, didn't it do all of that? Like,
it did all of it.
We started high. So, like, the thing I appreciated about Bayonetta 2 is that it markets itself as a Christmas game, kind of like Die Hard is a Christmas movie. So I appreciated that. But, like, the only way we can go in, like, Bayonetta 3, and which is what I think it's, like, hinting at, is multiverse.
Yeah.
We've got, like, timeline fuckery going on in Bayonetta 2.
The Cereza stuff from the first
game.
Yeah,
the Cereza braids. Yeah, like, she's embracing that younger version of herself. So, yeah, we're getting timeline shenanigans here.
So we're going Spider-Verse with it. We're going to get a bunch of Bayonettas at once.
Which would be amazing.
Sure.
There should be 3 because it's
Bayonetta 3, sure.
Also, what they should have done, there's only one E in the name. They could have put the 3 there, in my opinion.
Yeah, Bayonetta.
Bayonetta.
Yeah, we absolutely
should have.
Here's my most important question about Bayonetta 3. In the first game, we got a cheesy cover of Fly Me to the Moon. Second game, we got a cheesy cover of Moon River. What's the cheesy cover in this one gonna
be? We need to keep with the moon theme. Huh.
And it's got to be kind of Frank Sinatra Rat Pack adjacent too.
What's the when the moon hits your eye like
That's Amore?
Yeah.
Oh yeah. It'll be a Mario crossover.
Yeah. Well, it is a Switch exclusive.
There you go. Could be that. Did they do Blue Moon already or not?
They did not do Blue Moon.
I think Blue Moon's a good candidate.
That would be good. It's a little later than the other two standards, but I mean, the franchise is a little old.
Yeah, it's not exactly a crooner song, but you could do it that way.
Yeah, I could hear it.
Yeah, I think it works.
I'm excited. That's all.
Yeah, of course.
This is what I've been waiting for a very long time. Like, we've been on Bayonetta watch for what, 4 years now?
Yeah, they announced it, and neither hide nor hair has been.
I know, and I'm just happy that Hideki Kamiya is probably somewhere and like, oh my god, they can finally leave me the hell alone now. VGC has been like pestering that poor man for years now, asking like, hey, what's up? And now we finally have a trailer so he can just like rest. Like, not rest, but rest.
He's got me blocked on Twitter.
I think it's pretty funny how he's been dunking on fan artists for forgetting to draw the mole on Bayonetta's face.
I appreciate that dedication to
I mean, like, you don't really see people interact with fans in that openly hostile way. He's like a professional wrestler character.
Yeah, like a heel.
I don't know. Maybe he's a jerk in real life. Brandon, is Hideki Kamiya a jerk in real life?
I think so, yes.
Yeah, probably.
I haven't met him for more than 20 minutes, but I don't think he's like your buddy, you know?
Yeah.
He might not be the absolute worst, but I don't think he's someone you chill out with.
Yeah, I want to believe it's all an act, but he's too good at it.
Nah.
For it to be an act.
It's definitely not all an act. Yeah, when he blocked me on Twitter, it was because he was talking about his top 3 games of whatever year it was, like 2018. And 2 out of the 3 games he mentioned were games that I worked on. So I was like, hey, thanks. You liked 2 games that I worked on. And then he blocked me. Yeah, but I mean, he had a lot of criticisms to say about them. And then a lot of people were like, actually, he was only talking about the 3 games that he thought were notable, not necessarily for good or bad reasons. And here are the things he didn't like about your games. I was like, man, I don't know. I just wanted to say thanks for mentioning the 2 games that I worked on.
I think Brandon Sheffield's output this year really highlights what not to do in a video game.
That's right. That's how I pitch myself to companies. I'm like,
I'd hire you.
Yeah.
Do what I don't.
Sometimes you need a Bizarro on the team.
That guy's angular.
All right. Yeah.
That's what I know about him. He's angular. The only time I played Bayonetta, by the way, is on Wii U. So enjoy that factoid.
Sure. What is the greatest unsolvable problem in game design?
Hoodie cameras, apparently.
Yeah.
Nobody's gotten it, huh?
Drinking liquid.
Oh yeah, like one character handing a thing to another character.
Mm-hmm. And then like drinking a liquid. I'm just always drawn to the Mass Effect when you like knock back a shot when you're at a bar and it's just like an empty cup and there's no water and you slam it down and your hand's this little claw and it's just it's funny. It's hilarious.
I think Yakuza does an okay job of drinking. They'll show the liquid go a little bit and they obscure the mouth slightly so you can't see like what's happening. And I don't think water, I mean, it's always gin or whiskey or whatever, but I don't think it actually goes away, but it does slosh around in the glass, see the ice.
Yeah, I think I read somewhere that the most nightmarish thing you can ask a game animator to do is to have a character take off a hoodie or a jacket, or put a jacket or a hoodie on.
Oh, yeah.
Because it's just such a complicated thing to animate with like a spline system, right?
The fabric physics. Where do you put the bones in a hoodie?
That's right.
Bones.
Hood bones.
Hoodie bones.
Yeah, that must have been tough for those Watch Dogs and also prototype game developers. I think they took the hood off of the guy.
Hair's another big one.
I was going to say hair.
Yeah.
We still haven't figured out non-white people's hair.
But these are all like graphical things. I'm talking about from a game design.
Oh yeah, game design.
The player is my answer.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, it's hard to account for the player.
Yeah, they're always trying to do stuff that you don't want them to.
Yeah, you might as well just make a movie. Wash your hands.
Making people cry. Someone should finally get on trying to solve that one. That's
Yeah,
okay.
someone should do it.
Yeah, I mean, for sure. The Citizen Kane of games, we really need one of those, right?
Yeah.
Like a lot of games incorporate, they try to make you feel like you have a choice, but you actually don't have choice because your choices you have to pick from, whatever. So trying to, simulate free will is something we haven't really cracked yet because we can't really do anything because we can only pick from a list.
Right. Yeah, general gaminess is probably the biggest issue. Like, you're playing one of the new Tomb Raiders and you got to find 3 pelts to give to this guy because he wants them so that he can fabricate 1/3 of your crankshaft that you need to open one of the 3 doors to this palace.
One of the things I always think about, have been thinking about recently with the release of New World, is that why are MMOs and massive multiplayer games so hard to make interesting beyond that type of game design, right?
Yeah, they're so ropey.
New World apparently is the same thing where it's just like, subjugate however many number of peoples or something like that, and then you'll get this or that, right? And it's like, I said earlier kind of as a joke to the player, but like the issue is that in these massively multiplayer spaces, like how do you shepherd people into role playing, and playing the part without like it all immediately breaking down? I would love to play some sort of like massive multiplayer game which had like interesting open-ended challenges to perform and where players chose to like, the classic story people tell about things like Ultima Online, or like they were just a fisherman all day, right? But it was somehow rewarding to them. Like, but as soon as they made Fallout 76, there will be no like NPCs in this, but players didn't want to do any of the NPC stuff, right? So it just ended up just be feeling empty and useless. So how do we honestly create the metaverse? I suppose that's the problem.
Yeah, and getting away from grindiness because we got this length versus stuff kind of push-pull perception out there that we need to pad these things and make really long, get people to keep playing them for a long time, and then you wind up with free-to-play-ish systems. Not that there's anything inherently wrong with them.
I think the key to triggering real emotion with a video game isn't a software issue, but a hardware issue. I have this plan for a controller that I like to call the Cry controller, where much like the Rumble Pack in the N64 days, anytime like a significant character dies or you're betrayed by your best friend, it sprays like a fine onion mist at you.
Oh my God.
So you just cry appropriately when the scene occurs.
Oh, we already had the emotion engine in the PS2. I think that was enough for me.
Yeah, it's true. That thing stank of onions. You ever open up your PS2? All kind of onions, man.
We'll be right back after a quick break. Good job, everybody.
Woo.
What are your battery lives then?
71 actually, so it did go down in percentage because I've been turning it on and off. Like checking the battery the whole time.
I'm still at 83.
I'm up to 83.
Mine went down to 70 because I was I was auto running some grindy free to play stuff in the background.
welcome back to Insert Credit. It's time to dive headfirst into the Dirtbag. This is the portion of the show where we take a question submitted by a listener generous enough to give us a little bit of money at patreon.com/insertcredit, where you can get access to this form, which will potentially allow you a small role in this ongoing drama. Get access to our regular episodes one day early.
1 day?
That's right, 1 day early. And even exclusive bonus episodes every month and other cool content. Tiger Tiger is the listener I've chosen who cheated by submitting 3 questions.
Burning bright?
I can only assume.
Something in the night.
So we're going to devote 2 minutes to each of them. A little bit of a lightning round in the middle of the show. What contributions, if any, did the Dynasty Warriors series have on video?
Well, it basically just became a genre that you could slot things into. You could do a Hyrule Warriors, you could do a Berserk, you could do a whatever.
Do a Persona 5?
Yeah, put whatever format in, whatever thing into that format you want, and there it goes. It just became like a genre to itself. So I think that's the main thing that it did.
I don't think it's done much cross-contamination either, has it? It's not like...
No.
It's mostly just like Dynasty Warriors, the genre, and never the twain shall meet, you know?
It's given you another thing you can do with your IP.
Yeah. And other people have tried to make similar games, but they just are like, here's also Dynasty Warriors. They aren't like integrating it into some other situation.
Ash, would you play a Bayonetta Dynasty Warriors? I kind of think I would.
I would. I don't think Bayonetta has enough characters to support such a thing, though.
That's true.
Bring in more Sega characters.
Yeah.
Get Sonic in there.
That scares me. That upsets me. I don't like that idea.
Yeah, I don't think they should interact.
Oh, it's going to happen.
I think the Bayonetta series canonically takes place after all the Sonic games because it opens on the tombstone of Dr. Eggman.
I mean, who knows? Sonic could still be around.
He could be. I mean, Shadow's like 50 years old.
That's right.
That's how that works.
No, you could do a Sonic Dynasty Warriors. There's definitely enough characters there, especially if you pull in people from the Archie comics and shit. Oh yeah, we're good.
Oh yeah, just chock full of echidnas.
Yeah.
Name a detail in a game that you were impressed by its attention to accuracy and detail.
Huh.
For instance, they cite the tattoos in Yakuza.
I don't know if I was impressed, but I certainly noticed the food in them Final Fantasy.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, that's a good one.
I guess I was impressed with the level of detail they went to for the ramen ads in Final Fantasy 15. Give you a stupid ramen hat.
Yeah, they were really committed to that cross promote.
Yeah, they went all the way with it.
Yeah, I mean, for me, I think it's kind of the same as Brandon. Like, the thing that always impresses me, wrong or rightly, is slavish recreation of real life shit, basically. So, like, anytime I load up one of those Yakuzas or whatever, and I walk around, what is not Kabukicho, and it's just like what it's actually like, I'm like, yeah, I love that shit. Or just like, and the worst thing is when it's like advertising and stuff from the real world, where you're like, I'm looking at advertising, but in a video game, I shouldn't enjoy that, but I do.
Yeah, everybody loves Jake from State Farm. Their last question is the worst of the 3. Considering President Reagan is featured in Call of Duty, what circumstances do you think would call for or permit the inclusion of more recent presidents?
Nothing.
Please, God, nothing.
Yeah, we should never see another president in a video game.
No, not a real one anyway.
No. I don't know. We could do Lincoln, maybe. No, not even that. It's too, epic bacon.
Also, Lincoln is not more recent than Reagan, you'll find.
Yeah, that's true.
The question answers itself, isn't it? It's just if the historical events in the video game require the use of a president to be realistic.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Nothing requires. Like, you could just make people up. I don't give a shit.
Yeah, but I mean, if you're telling a story about like something that happened that involves the president, like it's like if you're doing a game about Watergate, I know that's not more recent than fucking Reagan, but you couldn't be like, and then here's President, John McStanley. Like, that doesn't make any sense because you're not like, sure. What's with this anti-president chat? Like, I mean, I'm not a big fan of any presidents, but like, I mean, if you're going to be doing something historical games have like a place, don't they?
I guess.
Yeah, no, I agree that for history, so if you're like making a Civilization 90s or whatever, you got to have Bush and Clinton in there.
Let's say if you were making a sim game where you're that guy who throws a shoe at George W. Bush.
That'd be a good VR game.
Yeah, you got to have Bush in that game.
It would be a good VR game. I would play the hell out of that. They could pick your favorite president or your least favorite president to chuck a shoe at.
Yeah.
I mean, they're all war criminals, so every one of them deserves to have a shoe thrown at them.
Yeah, get some different things you can throw.
I mean, at the very least, have a shoe thrown at them.
Yeah, at the very least.
Yes. Let's make this sim game where you throw shoes at politicians, and we'll call it Chuck Shoemore.
No, God. Okay, fine. Jesus, take my life and go.
I'll give you points for that.
Thank you.
Upgrade your character to Dutch, and you can throw wooden clogs at them.
Nice. Now we're out of the dirtbag. Here's a question I've been thinking about for a while. How do you report on the modding and fan game community when every time you do, it increases the risk that their intense labor of love is going to get shut down?
Don't do it for Nintendo games.
Yeah, but also like Square Enix games, maybe there's a lot of minefields there, and you never know when they're gonna pop off. I mean, Sega is cool with it right now, and they have been for the last, I don't know, 10 years. But what if Sega gets purchased by Tencent? Then are they gonna be cool with it? Can you make like League of Legends fan games?
I think Riot is a little more, I don't know, controlling of their API.
The
than
fact that there aren't
others.
10,000 League of Legends dating sims out there tells me no.
So yeah, it seems hard to report on, in my estimation. There's a lot of reporting on them getting shut down.
Yeah.
That's why I said don't do it for Nintendo games.
How do you help these often really amazing projects find the people who want them?
Side channels like social media and stuff like that. I guess you just can't,
Yeah.
at least for me as a journalist, like you just can't do it, like writing about it or anything like that, because it brings unwanted attention. But you can
Right.
absolutely boost it through your like social medias, and hopefully it gains traction that way.
Yeah, I think you can pay attention to the Sage. People call it the Sage Expo, but I believe the E in Sage, but whatever. That has a lot of fan games, largely Sega oriented, but not all. A lot of stuff gets lost in there. So you can write about those kind of en masse, and then maybe it won't take too much attention.
Something I've always wondered about, maybe this is a bit of a sideboard here, is rather than fan games and stuff, fan translations and balancing and things like that, like, is there some legal reason why, like, when game companies reissue a certain game, like, they don't just, like, try and find a way to use that fan translation or something like that? Like, because there's just so many available out there and so many games that would be easy to just push out if you could just, like, make a handshake agreement with the modders who aren't making any money from it anyway, right? So, like, I've often wondered why, like, we don't see more of that. And with, maybe Frank would know better about this, because, nowadays, like, a lot of these publishers are using, like, off-the-shelf emulators. So what's to stop them using, fan translations and
Right.
things?
Yeah, I think some of the issue is related to, like, there's some weird rights stuff. I mean, if you pay, it's fine, but like, who helped them? What tools did they use? Was all that stuff on the app before you did it? I was having a conversation at one point with a publisher and some people about potentially bringing a game here that had to the West that had never been translated, and contracting the fan translator at the very least to implement the hack, because they had already been hacking it. Because some companies like Digital Eclipse fully understand that if you're going to translate some of these games, really you are doing a fan translation. Essentially, you're doing the same work. You're patching the game. I think we'll eventually see it. I think there have been a couple times where it's happened, but it's strange that it is so rare.
Yeah.
Agreed.
We should bring back Newgrounds, I think, is the answer to that.
It's still there.
Really? How?
Now you made me think of that unfortunate, well, not unfortunate, well, depending on your perspective, Animal Crossing thing. Nobody knows what I'm talking about.
No.
No, what are you talking about?
You don't know what I'm talking about? Oh, wow. So remember Zone?
Oh. Oh yeah, I know some perverts.
Yeah, he made an Animal Crossing porn parody, and it's set to this like banger of a song. And now whenever I hear the song, like, it activates like this like primal lizard brain thing in the back of my head. Like,
Yeah.
oh, that's a thing. Kind of like leak spin.
Oh
Yeah.
yeah. Yeah, absolutely. That is the kind of thing Nintendo probably should be shutting down.
Could they?
I would be like, yeah, that's fair.
That's fair. Yes. Yes, that is definitely fair.
I can't argue with that.
I'm sorry. I'm sorry.
Yeah. Let's give you another opportunity to shine here. According to the last survey I took of our listeners, most of them don't really seem to be esports people, but I feel like they're missing out on a lot of the messy Overwatch League drama, and I feel like now would be a good time to catch them up on.
Oh yeah, I believe this is when I said to you, Ash, that sometimes I see you using words, and I know that I recognize that they're words, but I don't know what any of them mean.
Actually, it seems like League has been a little light on drama this year. if we're not counting like, the shitty things players who are no longer players have been doing, which we're not going to count. But there have always been like some kind of like trade problems or whatever. But I think most of what is so cool about Overwatch esports isn't like messy drama or anything like that. But like imagine a sports anime, like the most stereotypical shonen shit sports anime that you could think of. And that is what happens in the Overwatch League. Like you can't make it up. For example, which, I know why you asked me this question. There was a team, my favorite team. I am a Black girl from Ohio whose favorite team represents Shanghai, China, and it is composed entirely of Koreans. They started the Overwatch League, like their career, like 3 years ago now, and they went 0-42. They lost every game of the season, which was a staggering amount. 40 games. That's a lot in esports, not for like regular football or whatever. They lost all 40 of those games. And then the first two of the next season, like they were a complete joke, right? And then like a couple weeks ago, they won the Overwatch League Grand Finals, and it'll be the last Grand Finals played on the regular like Overwatch client while Blizzard works on Overwatch 2. So it's like a nice little bookend. Yeah. It's like this weird, crazy bookend that happened. Like this team that lost every game won the grand champions of the final, like that game. Like they closed that out.
How did they turn that around?
Very good coaching and player decisions. Just very good shit.
Was it the same people or did they switch out everyone on the team?
They switched out everyone on the team.
Oh, there you go.
It's the original team was all Chinese players, and they got rid of all those people, and then they switched to all Korean, and they ended up being better. They were the Shanghai Dragons were the only team that had a girl playing for them for a while, so that was neat. I'm actually wearing their jersey now, so those kinds of stories, like the things that you would imagine that you would see in like a sports movie or a sports anime, that happens regularly. Like rookies, redeeming their team or something like that. An elder statesman who's been in esports for a very long time, comes back for like one last hurrah, like that kind of shit. That happens all the time. And if you know those stories, and journalists, esports journalists in the Overwatch community try our best to tell those stories because, but nobody cares about Overwatch except for me. So you can like have an idea of what's going on, but hang around, come watch a game, hang around, learn about it for a little bit, and you'll pick up a lot of like really neat, interesting, fun, heartening things.
I mean, I've read that Overwatch, compared to similar games, has a pretty large female player base. Why doesn't that translate to the professional circuit?
Oh, you mean like players?
Yeah.
It's starting to get a tiny bit better, and by a tiny bit, I mean there's like maybe one or two women in like the amateur that's directly under the Overwatch League that feeds into the Overwatch League. But it's just like you have to pay attention. You have to want to do something like that. You have to want to give these players a chance. And the Gaguri, the female player that I'm talking about, was actually very good at what she did. And it's not like, oh, we'll throw you a bone or anything like that. Like she is legitimately talented, and they decided like we're gonna call this person. But like I remember, at the time people were saying like, oh, because we're a bunch of boys and bring a girl into this team, we don't want to like break unit cohesion or anything like that. Those kinds of things. It's got to be something that you want to do, that something that teams want to do. And what I've seen teams do nowadays is that they'll sign women to be like on their content team. So they'll like have women stream for them or whatever, but they won't go as far as having them on their team. Not every team is like that. The Paris Eternal has a female general manager. A couple teams have like women as their like general managers, or even women as their coaches. They're trying, but there's just like one further step to take, and nobody except for Shanghai has taken that step at this point.
This is something I know basically nothing about, so I'm kind of interested just to ask, like, what does a coach do for an esports team?
Good question.
What does a coach do for a basketball team or a football team? Like it's the same thing. It translates very well, actually.
Like they set up drills and stuff.
Like, do they have particular plays in an Overwatch game? Like, I don't really understand. I don't play Overwatch or know anything about it. So is it like you would go here, you would go there, you would claim this piece of zone or whatever? Is it kind of like that?
It's that kind of like guidance, like that, having that kind of guidance for your team members so they know what to do in situations. Like if you watch Overwatch enough, that you will begin to understand that there are like patterns to plays. Like on certain maps, teams will, not always, but they'll usually go one route or usually go another route, or there are set routes that they can go So kind of like a football play or whatever. And it's a coach's job to like direct that. Like they can't like direct in the middle of a game the way that a basketball coach can, but they can definitely go through with their teams. This is what we're going to do against this team on this map, or these are the heroes that I want you to play, that kind of stuff. I imagine like that's how it works, honestly. And there are good coaches and there are absolutely dog shit coaches. Like the guy who coaches the San Francisco Shock, who won like 2 years out of the 4 that we've had, like they've had pretty much the same coach. And like that guy's like a god, right? Like his subordinates have gone out to other teams and we thought like, oh, like this team, this coach was a coach under this bigger coach and he's going to this shitty team and maybe this shitty team will be less shitty. Sometimes that works, sometimes it doesn't. And you'll have coaches come in from like the amateur leagues or whatever, and they've had success in their amateur league, and then they absolutely like light it up in Overwatch League proper. Like that's what happened with Paris. That is kind of what happened with Shanghai. That's what happened with San Francisco. So it functions pretty much the same way you would imagine like a normal team would, just a little differently.
Is there a Ted Lasso of Overwatch? Like a coach who doesn't necessarily win a lot of games, but treats his team like a family and wins everyone over.
Whose second season is absolutely dog shit, you're meaning?
Wow. Wow. Strong words.
I have not seen...
I could not disagree more.
Oh,
I've been really
We should get into this, Jaffe. We should get into it.
Do not spoil Ted Lasso season 2. All
right.
As far as I know, there aren't really any Ted Lasso coaches, but there are a ton of Ted Lasso players. Like there are a ton of players that like have these like shitty teams and they just like love on them and it's great. Like Shanghai was that team for a while.
I have a question actually as well. I know this is quite extended by this point, but I'm interested. My memories of ever about esports is just about how long the hours are, how hard it is on the players. Like, is that still true? Is it still like a really huge time commitment?
Yeah. Overwatch had a bit of that kind of problem like early on in like the first couple seasons. It seems like it's gotten better. The way that this works is like it's a communal thing. Like these teams, they live together in one big house. They practice together. They have set schedules, especially if you're like a Korean team or not a Korean team, but a US team that's like comprised entirely of Koreans. So like the Dallas Fuel, for example, they're based in Dallas, all Koreans. So they all have to kind of like live together to form like their own little unit because, you know, these kids are learning English. They don't speak English that well. So they're all together and, you know, it's sun up to sundown, that kind of stuff. It's gotten better. Like I think the Overwatch League itself has like rules in place for player protections. It's not like a player union or anything like that, which I think they should do, you know, just as an aside. But they definitely have things in place to where like wellness coaches, they hire chefs. So these kids can like eat food that's not only nutritious, but like will keep them from getting homesick. So they can have like the stuff that they're used to getting in Korea or wherever else they're from, you know, that kind of stuff. So it's not as good as, or not as bad as it was, but maybe seems a little, I don't know, regimented, potentially abusive.
It does sound pretty bad to me. Like,
yeah.
I think of like, you know, I've talked previously in the show about how much I like basketball, and the bubble when they did that, there was a lot of negotiation to make something like that happen, right? Which was them being away from their families and everything else. Like, and if you were to ask basketball players or football players to live in the same house as all the other players in their team, there's absolutely no way that would be allowed at this point, right? And it just seems really it strikes me as the type of situation where absolutely the players should have more power.
Power to the players.
Yeah, power to the players.
Here is our next question.
I wanted to talk about Street Fighter esports, but I guess we can do that some other time.
Let's wait till we have Patrick Miller back on the show to talk about Street Fighter.
Oh yeah, that'll be
actually an Ash/Patrick episode just dedicated to esports might be pretty good.
Esport.
You know where to find me.
Yeah, this is a question from my dad. How concerned should we be about video game censorship in China?
I don't know. Like, I find it hard to be concerned about because I can't control it and neither can anyone else.
Mm-hmm.
They're not gonna be censoring stuff over here because they can't do it. The stuff that they're doing over there is like immediately cottage industries pop up every time they're like, okay, we're gonna stop people from playing games in this way. We're gonna do this and that. And then like, okay, kids can only play for whatever it was, like 2 hours once a week or something. I forget the exact numbers. But immediately there was a business that started up being like, we will spoof accounts for you so that you can play more than 2 hours a week.
I was getting ready to say, like, the kids will find a way. Like,
yes.
I mean, think of American kids. Like, there's nothing you can craft to stop them. If the people who care enough who want to do it will be able to do it. And the same thing goes for like any kind of censorship. Kind of strikes me as a little is interesting because there's, on the one hand, there are the people who are going to work to get the uncensored versions of the games, and then the other kinds of like netizens who are like dedicated to the censorship, like they appreciate that. Like I'm thinking of what's that Hong Kong developed game, the Winnie the Pooh thing. I forget
that
what
was
that.
Taiwan, but yeah.
Oh, that was Taiwan. Yeah, like there are people that will go out of their way to like review bomb a game like that because like they're insulting like the party or whatever. That's interesting to me. Like those people are all for it. And then there will be the other people who are like, yeah, we'll find a way. I'm not worried about it. And there's no reason to be, as long as they don't try to do that, pull that shit over here. Which actually, another Overwatch thing kind of happens. There was a Korean player on the Korean team. Korea only has one team. China has 4.
China is bigger than Korea, last I checked.
Yes, but esports is, well, they're probably about the same. Anyway, Korean player was expressing his woes on, it was either some like Twitter analogy over there about how, if he wants to appeal to Chinese fans, he has to like talk a certain way. And it got into the subject of Hong Kong, and he's like, you can't say, he was like saying, yeah, you can't say Hong Kong, like I don't get it, like he didn't understand, right? He was kind of like confused by this whole like one China thing and the things that people were telling him he had to say in order to like be compliant or whatever. And he wasn't like down with that exactly. So like he said those things, and he kind of said like, oh, I'm learning Chinese phrases so I can be a good little dog, that kind of thing. And they kicked his ass for it. This was right before the season started. And the 4 Chinese teams got together and said, we're boycotting. Like we won't scrimmage with this team at all if this person is playing.
Wow.
Yeah, he was like essentially blacklisted. He issued an apology for it. All the other teams like got together and said like they issued statements against it or whatever. And then after he apologized and there was some intervening from the Overwatch League head office, and then everything got smoothed over. We never saw him play. He did not play once for the whole year. So it happens. It can affect, its tentacles are far reaching, I guess I should say.
Yeah, I find this stuff really interesting from an American perspective, because from an American perspective, like pundits over here love to talk about how bad the censorship is in China. And at the same time, we Americans absolutely want to be able to do that same stuff.
Yeah.
Like, would football fans love to be able to kick someone out of the league for taking a knee during the anthem? Yes, they would love to. And they basically de facto have. And certain elements, would they love to be able to not let people play video games? Of course they would. So they're like, China is a big lesson for us all. We got to watch out for them. But then they turn around and are like, yeah, definitely video games are what caused this shooter to go nuts.
It's a complicated situation as it often is. What Ash was talking about sounded like a very serious situation, but it's not so much the censorship in China that people have to be concerned about. It's the way in which the essentially like Western capitalism wants to do what China wants in order to maintain access to that marketplace, right?
Mm-hmm.
So I think we've talked previously on the show about things such as Genshin Impact, for example, censoring the mention of Hong Kong, right? I mean, if you are a company who's been bought by one of these large companies, they want your that project to be available in China to a Chinese market. And in a lot of cases, it's easier to modify a Western product to fit China than it is to make the Western product the way you want it and then give it to China bowdlerized in some ways, which bleeds backwards. So I think it's extremely important. We talk about free speech and everything else, but when you think about somebody like John Cena, right? Like John Cena recently had to give a terrible crawling apology in Chinese because he referred to Taiwan as a separate country, which it is, right? Like there's just, and the fact is that like that type of pressure of, the government and the communities, as Ash has talked of, people who are very rabidly nationalistic in the country, it's challenging. And I think that the important thing is to not simply be concerned, but to not support things that crack down on free speech in those ways. So it's, I'm not as worried about kids in China only getting 2 hours of gameplay a week. That's not important. What I'm worried about is, as you said, the developers of, I wish I could remember the name of that game that you mentioned, Ash, but those developers essentially having their...
By Red Candle Games. Red Candle
Games, essentially having their livelihood crushed, and they're not even trying to sell the game in China now, right? Or, as you say, this esports player who has a very fair point to make, which is like, I'm not Chinese, I don't have the same opinion as Chinese people about, let's say, Hong Kong or Taiwan or anything like that. and these other people like push him down. I think that's the type of thing we should be concerned about. As Brandon said, though, how much can we do about it?
Yeah.
Well, there's not much more you can do except speak up.
Yeah, I mean, I just have to accept that my games will probably never sell in China because I'm going to keep saying Taiwan is a country and Hong Kong deserves independence. So,
There goes your $11 billion.
Yeah.
Yeah.
This is a question we previously addressed in episode 200, along with 99 other ones. But we were paid extra by a listener to revisit the question more seriously, because we kind of dismissed it the first time around. What is the Mamma Mia, as in the ABBA jukebox musical, of video game?
You know what the answer was the first time?
It was Mario saying spaghetti.
What?
That's quality. Can we just answer that again?
As a Black person, someone explain to me Mamma Mia. Like, I know what it is, but when they say, what is Mamma Mia? Like, what do they mean when they say that?
Mamma Mia is a very campy musical about a lady who finds out she has 3 potential suitors of her mom from years past who could all potentially be her father, and she tries to figure out which one is her real dad while singing a bunch of songs by the band ABBA.
I think what's important, though, is the sort of cultural context of Mamma Mia, the musical. It was a hit West End show, right?
Yes.
ABBA is... I don't know, how popular are ABBA really in America?
They're pretty popular.
I mean, they're certainly not as much now.
Yeah, but like
they
in
were.
the 70s, they were huge.
Yeah.
At the height of ABBA, they were as big here as everywhere.
So the thing that has to be explained to some respects about Mamma Mia is that ABBA are never not popular in Europe. Like, they are consistently popular. Like, to the point where this, I don't know if you guys followed any of this news, but they're going to have a permanent installation in the UK, which every night does an ABBA concert with like hologram ABBAs, as in they have had their bodies like scanned and they've done motion capture to have weird CGI members of ABBA as young people performing every night.
Wow.
Terrifying.
They Hatsune Miku'd themselves.
If you, any, like, not maybe so much during the pandemic, but any night, any Thursday night, right, let's say in the UK, right, you could go to a ABBA tribute night in probably every major town, because that's how big. Because you have to admit, and I'll just be clear, I don't personally enjoy ABBA very much. I prefer their sadder songs, Winner Takes It All, things like that, classic. But they are absolutely titanic, pure pop songwriters. You really can't argue them reaching the peak of the pop song kind of thing, right? And then the crazy thing about Mamma Mia is it was a huge thing because it's the actual thing itself is essentially trash. The sequel is like they're not really good, but much in the same way of something like a West End show like We Will Rock You, people aren't really going for that. They're going for the thing that they already love, just presented to them slightly differently.
Whatever the Mamma Mia of video games is, it might be something that's a celebration of a perennial phenomenon in Europe, but something that had its moment in America.
Sonic CD.
For a couple I was actually going to go in a similar direction and say Marky Mark and the Funky Bunch make my video for Sega CD.
Well, Marky Mark and the Funky Bunch, just to be clear, were never that big in Europe.
No, it's true.
I've kind of removed it from the big in Europe kind of thing, but Sonic CD, if only for the fact that Michael Jackson is the rumored person to like work on that soundtrack.
That's Sonic 3, though.
That's Sonic 3.
Oh, then I mean Sonic 3. Sonic 3.
I think you're on the right thing, though, because to me, that would be Sonic Mania. You know, Sonic Mania is...
Sonic Mania absolutely works.
It's something people already knew. It's essentially exact celebration of that thing. It doesn't remix it too much. It doesn't change it too much. The framework isn't really that important to it. It's just getting the thing that you already love, which is classic Sonic, just done again.
Right. And Sonic is a thing which had its moment for a bunch of people, but the diehards never gave up hope.
For Australia, would it be... Well, maybe this is too specific, but Street Fighter the movie, the video game, has Kylie Minogue in it. So... Is that how that works for Australia? Because it's like, well, that's got Kylie Minogue in it.
And again, I don't want to speak for everyone in Australia right now, but Australia, the Commonwealth countries, or the more white Commonwealth countries, let's say, which would be the UK and Australia and New Zealand, all have very similar cultures, actually. So, like, I'm pretty sure in New Zealand and Australia, they fucking love ABBA as well. So it's probably still Sonic Mania there.
Okay. Right. Yeah, I think we solved it, which means It's time to go on to our lightning round. This is a new game that is going to make us a lot of money.
Yes.
That I am calling Mashup Merch. Everyone knows that the most popular merchandise is when you mash up a thing with another thing. So I'm going to name a video game or game series, and you have to pitch me something to cross it over with and how we can use that to sell thousands of t-shirts.
Can you give me an example?
The Star Wars cast drawn as Calvin and Hobbes characters, and that sells thousands of copies.
Does it though?
It does. It makes people money hand over fist, and until somebody finds them out and gives them a DMCA or something.
Yeah, Rasta Bart smoking weed.
Exactly.
Oh gosh.
Yeah.
Your first series is Crisis.
You had to make this as hard as possible, didn't you, Jaffe?
Okay,
Yeah.
I think, wait, does it have to be another media franchise or just something else?
It can just be anything else.
So I think Crisis, you market with GPUs. Like the main character looks like a goddamn GPU, frankly, or like an Alienware case or whatever.
I think I have more the idea of what Jaffe means. I would go for Crisis on Infinite Earths. It's all the DC characters and the Crisis characters there, and it's on a t-shirt.
Ah, there you go.
Yeah.
All right.
Okay.
Yeah, and it would be like kind of mashup of all the Crisis and Far
It's
Cry
mashing
people
up. Sorry.
and everything
Okay, got it.
Cryware. Yeah, sure. You do it in a big poster style. Why not? Somebody's carrying somebody in a Pieta pose. Panzer Dragoon.
Oh, interesting. Is that FromSoft or who is that?
That's Sega. That's Panzer Dragoon is Saturn and Xbox.
Does it have to be a non-game, or could it be another game?
It could be another game. It just has to be another recognizable thing that people would be like, oh, that thing.
So Panzer Dragoon.
Let's mash up two pretty obscure franchises over here. What would that look like? I guess it's 2B riding a dragon.
It just misses the running around on the ground parts of Dragon and is otherwise almost.
All right, Tenchu
and Tenchi Muyo, because I've always
I was going to say Tenchi Muyo?
Tenchu
Muyo.
That's really good. Yeah.
Oh, that might actually sell a few things.
I think it might.
Sensible World of Soccer.
Come on, I'm always going to get through a whole fucking episode, you twat. Let me think.
Sensible World of Soccer and FIFA. That would actually do really
I was going to say, have you seen the screenshots coming out of Konami's soccer game today? Ooh, that's fun.
Sensible World of Soccer and Captain Tsubasa, the soccer anime. I'm sorry I keep going to anime, but trying to make money.
Yeah, that's how you do it. Metroid.
No, okay, so I've got a merchandise thing. Crossover Metroid with like bespoke infant care. A line of baby stuff, Metroid themed.
Oh, sure.
Like a baby Metroid and a baby Mother Brain, a baby Crane.
No. I mean like swaddling clothes and cribs and like a mobile that's just a bunch of Metroids like hanging above your child. I would buy that.
Yeah, that I could see that getting sold on like Geekly.com.
Yeah, like Think Geek or something.
Or Fan Gamer. Yeah, I could totally.
I have one other. It's like a non-profit thing. This wouldn't make us a bunch of money, but it would help the Monterey Bay Aquarium.
Yeah.
Save the animals.
Because they've got, well, sure, you got Save the Animals from the speedruns, and then also Monterey Bay Aquarium specializes in jellyfish, so there's a pretty clear like Metroid alignment there.
Yeah, that's a pretty altruistic idea, but it's not gonna make us any money, so I'm gonna have to deduct points from you for that.
Okay.
Roller Coaster Tycoon.
Six Flags.
Sounds dangerous.
Yeah.
I'm struggling with this
I don't
one.
know. I think Roller Coaster Tycoon would tie in with some terrible Bitcoin NFT nonsense.
Oh yeah.
Because it's got the word tycoon in it. Everybody wants to.
Yeah. Or you could do like a Five Nights at Freddy's thing or something where like you expand it into a theme park.
Yeah.
I feel like that's a sensible direction for the franchise.
Mm-hmm.
You can put that on a t-shirt. Grim Fandango.
With Fandango.
Yeah.
Grim Fandango sells movie tickets now.
Yeah.
Yeah. Like just Manny Calavera hanging out on the website.
Yeah.
Double Fine writing intros to like horror movies for October.
Yeah.
I would like that actually. Zone of the Enders.
Auto Zone of the Enders.
Yes.
Get in the sound.
Where you could like get your mech detail.
Yeah, get your mech parts at
Does AutoZone still exist?
Yeah.
Yes.
I thought they got bought out by O'Reilly.
O'Reilly of the Enders. No, AutoZone of the O'Reillys.
Oh god.
Microsoft Flight Simulator.
Well, they just did a thing with. They're just doing a thing with Top Gun, aren't they?
Oh, they got it, yeah.
No, they
No,
are.
They are.
Really?
Yeah, they're doing a thing with Top Gun.
No kidding. What are they doing with Top Gun?
I don't know. You can fly the Top Gun ships and stuff.
Yeah.
All right. That's what they call them, ships, right?
Yeah, ships, airships.
Planes. I don't know.
Like spaceships, airships. Fuck it.
Okay.
Yeah.
Man, next time I get on a plane, I'm gonna call it an airship. Well, I'm getting on the airship.
Yeah. Well, I'm getting on the rigid dirigible. New World is our last one. A game I know nothing about, but apparently millions of people.
There's
are
no
playing.
way for us to make money on anything owned by Amazon. So it's just
Right.
about making Amazon more money, which means it's a Whole Foods promotion and they can keep all their money in the family.
Colonize the new world and, gentrifying neighborhoods one step at a time.
Yeah, so maybe with some redistricting initiatives.
Yeah.
Could make a lot of money doing that, actually.
And that's our game. I think I'm tallying up the points here, and just by a hair, Ash Parrish is our winner this week.
You-
Congratulations, Ash.
Congratulations.
And what put you over was your staggeringly high phone battery charge at the very start of the episode. Right now is the part where we recommend things to people that either we're working on or that we would like them to read or watch or play or get involved in somehow, or just ways they can use their time well between this episode and the next.
Do you want me to go first?
Yeah, Matthew, go ahead.
The day we're recording is actually the National Day for Truth and Reconciliation, which in Canada is a sort of a new holiday, basically, which makes it sound very festive. But it's for basically people to remember what was done to the Indigenous people who live in this country, basically, and a lot related to do with what were called residential schools, where the children of Indigenous people were taken and educated to try and stamp out their culture, basically. Something to kind of remember is this is actually a very recent part of history that was the last school, I think, was only closed in 1996. And if you were the child in one of those schools, your chance of survival was, in fact, lower than a soldier in the Second World War. Apologies if people find this upsetting, but many mass graves have been found. Thousands of children were lost, and this is an attempt for people in Canada to face up to a colonial history. I think personally, as an immigrant and someone who comes also from a colonized people, it's kind of hard to understand and face up to the fact that you yourself are colonizers. So I think this is really important for people of all types of people to read up on. And if you're Canadian or you're interested in the Canadian situation, one of the things that's most recommended is mostly just to educate yourself. So there's a Truth and Reconciliation Commission report, which I recommend reading. I will, in fact, tonight be spending time reading. Apparently, the executive summary is very easy. There are a bunch of calls to action, which you could read if you're interested in involving. And if you're not Canadian, but let's say you live in America, you live in South America, you live in Australia, or another country with a history of colonialism, I think something that's very interesting to look at is to look at the website nativeland.ca. So that's native-land.ca. And that will sort of reveal to you the native lands on which you are living and working. Something which is a positive thing to do, which I'm not directly recommending, but I think it's worth exploring, is to perform land acknowledgements when you put out creative work or you are performing an event, for example. I have been told that the best thing to do is to discuss with your local Indigenous communities to make sure that you're performing the acknowledgement in a way that reaches, is respectful to them. You don't want to just do it based on this website. So I do think that the most important thing to do is to educate you about this self and try and do what you can from that point on to be active or make it known about. And so I just felt on a day like today it was important to mention that.
I'm checking out the website now. It's very interesting.
The Truth and Reconciliation Commission reports are at nctr.ca.
I'll add on to that. If you live in the Bay Area, look up Shumi Land Tax, SHUUMI Land Tax, and that is voluntary annual contribution that non-Indigenous people living in basically the Bay Area can make to work on rematriation, returning Indigenous land to Indigenous people. Specifically, one thing they want to do is establish a cemetery to rebury stolen Ohlone ancestral remains and stuff like that. Man, when they built this huge complex over here, the Bay Street complex, and it was done by destroying a shell mound because those aren't valued as relics here because they're Indigenous created. And they were talking about doing a great job of taking care of all the artifacts and whatever. But my buddy who worked at PG&E was like, yeah, I just saw human bones stuffed in a closet. Is what I saw.
Wow.
So
God.
look up Shumi Land Trust. That's a good thing you can do if you're living in the Bay Area, but there may be other things like that wherever you live. Don't live there. I also want to recommend First Nations band that I'm afraid I'm gonna have a difficult time pronouncing this. I know you're not supposed to apologize and just go for it, but it is. I feel bad, but it looks to me like Ushang Bagush is the name of the band. The album is called MNTU, and it's someone from the Mi'kmaq tribe in the Boston, Massachusetts area, and it's a very excellent solo black metal kind of second wave-ish album, and it's really good.
To everyone's point, actually Indigenous Peoples Day is Monday, October 11th, which is in a couple weeks for people who live in the United States. So
coming up,
take the effort, to figure out where you are. Like I live in a place called Cuyahoga Falls, which is a Mohawk word for Crooked River, for the Cuyahoga River. People like to make fun of that caught on fire once in the 70s, but we're way past that. So grow up, y'all. As for other recommendations, play Sable. Sable's a really good game. Can't recommend it enough.
It looks nice.
Sure. What's good about it?
So, anybody a fan of Japanese Breakfast? She does the music for that
You know,
game.
I like fish well enough, but not in the morning.
You get out. She does the music for the game, and it's really good. But it's like, imagine a soft, like, you know how we spell soft on the internet with an E? Imagine a soft Breath of the Wild. It's a game where you're completely in control. Like, you're the engine. You decide how much or how little you want to do. It's a journey of like self-discovery. It's got great graphics. You get a little speeder bike, and you get to like zoom over like the dunes, like this incredible like Mobius inspired environment. Like the I think it was a French comic, Mobius, like that kind of art style. Yeah, it's just a brilliant game. A lot of fun. Very like slow, soft, exploration based. You'll have a great time, and it's got like banging music. Like if you've got like an hour to kill and you just want something chill it is new, so prepare for that.
It looks nice.
Anything other than that, like I just can't recommend it enough.
Well, I've got some recommendations. Here's what I would like to recommend. I'd like to recommend that if you're listening to this show on any platform where you can subscribe to or review podcasts, that you engage with us in that way to keep the algorithms pushing us upwards and forwards. I do read those reviews. I am heartened by them. They brighten my day. Maybe someday I'll remember to read them on the show. You can go to patreon.com/insertcredit. That's another way to help out. Or you could become a patron to submit your own topics. Get our regular episodes one day early.
What?
Yes, one day early. And even access monthly bonus episodes and other exclusive content. You can also join us on forums.insertcredit.com and follow us on Twitter for our own personal updates and projects. The show is at Insert Credit. I'm at Alex Jaffe. Brandon is at NecroSofty. Mathew is at Mathew Kumar with one T only. And Ash is Ad Astra. The show is edited by Esper Quinn with music by Kurt Feldman. Once more, I'm Alex Jaffe.
I'm Brandon Sheffield.
I'm Mathew Kumar.
I'm Ash Parrish.
And you have now completed the episode. Congratulations. Here's the secret that I haven't told you all. When I flew today from Florida back to New York, I forgot my laptop charger. So right now it is at 28%, and I won't get a way to charge it until I get a new one shipped to me tomorrow.
Heck.
Living on the edge.
Yeah.
No, you're going to say, here's the secret, guys, I haven't told you. I'm naked right now. And I was going to be like, oh my God, why are you telling us this?
I thought you were going to announce something fun, like you've been picked up by like the iHeartRadio like network or something like that.
That'd be nice.
No. The secret is that I have 47 minutes remaining on this battery.